All right, to solve for x, we're going to divide each side by 2, and we're going to get x is equal to 4y. Here to solve, we're going to move the z across, and it's going to flip sign. So we're going to get x is equal to 5y minus 3z. Here we'll solve for x by moving this and moving this. And again, they're going to flip signs. So the 2a remains positive, but 4b becomes negative, and 3c becomes positive. First step is to eliminate my parentheses, so I'm going to distribute this, and I'll get 2cx plus 6cn. And then I'm going to isolate this term by moving this term over to the left, and it flips sign, so it becomes a negative 6cn. And then I'll divide each side by 2c. And I'm going to get, see, these cancel, so I'll get x is equal to 5g minus 6cn all over 2c. And I cannot cancel this because I can't cancel there. And I can't cancel the c because I can't cancel there. So this is simplified. I first want to isolate this term by moving this term, and I'm just going to subtract it from each side. So I have 2/3 x is equal to 5 minus 1 is 4. And if you can get rid of this in one step by multiplying by the reciprocal. And I'll cancel. 2 goes into 4 twice. And so I have x is equal to 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. So x is equal to 6. Here I'm going to solve by moving the c over. And I'll have 2x is equal to 5f minus 7c. And then I'll divide each side by 2. And we're going to get x is equal to 5f minus 7c all over 2. I'm going to get rid of this in one step by multiplying by the reciprocal. So I have 4/5 x is equal to negative 2, and I'll multiply this side by 5/4. So I'll do the same thing to this side. And we're going to get x is equal to, remember this is like over 1. So 2 goes into 2 once and into 4 twice. And we have negative 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 2 is 2. On number 8, I'm going to move my 5y over, so I'll have 3x is equal to 20 minus 5y. And then I'll just divide each side by 3. And I'll get x is equal to 20 minus 5y all over 3. If you put negative 5y plus 20, that's perfect. In fact, that might be better, but either one is okay. There's a lot going on here, so I'm going to use my little roadmap: parentheses, fractions, simplify, isolate, divide. I'll get rid of the parentheses by distributing this. And remember, this is like over 1. So I'm going to get 1/4 n is equal to, when I multiply this times this, I multiply across the top. 3 times 3 times c times x is 9cx. And I multiply across the bottom. 2 times 1 is 2. And then when I multiply this times this, I have 3 times 5 times f is 15f. Oops, what did I just do? And then I multiply across the bottom. 2 times 1 is 2. So I got rid of the parentheses. Now the fractions. I'm going to multiply everything by 4. And I'll show this. You could probably do this in your head, but I'll show this step. And then I'll cancel. 4 goes into 4 once, so we have 1n. 2 goes into 4 twice. When I multiply, I get 18cx. And 2 goes into 4 twice, so when I multiply there, I get 30f. Now, I've got rid of my fractions, so now I'm ready. I can simplify, but there's no like term, so I just skip that step. And I'm ready to isolate. I'm after this term, it has my x, so I want to move this term across the equal sign. And it just flips sign when you do that. So now I isolate it and we're ready to divide. I'll divide each side by 18c. So we're going to get n minus 30f over 18c. And this cannot be canceled because you can't cancel here because there's no 2 to cancel here. So this is simplified. Okay, we're after this term, so I'm going to start by moving this term and this term across the equal sign. And we just flip signs when you do that. So I have 5r minus 8y plus 3g. And if you could write it in any order. Some people would have written it alphabetically, so 3g, then plus 5r, and then minus 8y. Anyway, it really doesn't matter what order you put it in. So now I'm going to divide by 2, and I'll get 5r minus 8y plus 3g all over 2. And don't try to cancel here because we cannot also cancel here and here. You can't cancel anywhere. So this is simplified. 3 times a number increased by 2. 4 is being decreased. So the 4 comes first and is being decreased by 2/3 of a number. 32 is being increased by 4 times a number. 2 times the sum of a number and 5. So the sum of a number and 5, that's x plus 5. Then 2 times that, 2 times the entire sum is that, and that's all decreased by 4. The quotient of a number decreased by 5 and 2. Whenever you see a thing like a quotient, you look for the and. That gives you your division bar. And 2. And it's a number decreased by 5. The quotient of 4 and the quantity. So the quotient of 4 and the quantity of a number increased by 8. The sum of a number and negative 19, so, let's do it here. X plus negative 19 is negative 2. So that's like this. Now to bring the negative 19 over, we add 19 to each side. And we're going to get x is equal to 17. Negative 3 is increased by negative 3 increased by 3 times the number. So negative 3 increased by 3 times the number is negative 5. I guess I just should have written that here. And then when we solve this, we're going to bring the negative 3 over by adding it to each side. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. And then we'll divide by 3. And we'll get x is equal to negative 2/3. The quotient, so we're looking for and because that gives us our division bar. The quotient of a number and 2, all decreased by 4, is 1. So now I'm going to bring the 4 over by adding 4 to each side. And I'll get x over 2 is equal to 1 plus 4 is 5. And then I'll get rid of my fraction by multiplying each side by 2. So we'll get x is equal to 10. The quotient, so I'm looking for and. There's my and. So the quotient of the quantity of a number decreased by 3 and 5. Then we have is negative 2. So now I'm going to multiply each side by 5. And and these will cancel, and we'll get x minus 3 equals negative 10, and then we'll add this to each side, and we're going to get x is equal to negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7. When 3/4 of a number, that's 3/4 x, this is subtracted from 10, the result is negative 4. To solve this, I'll move my 10 over by subtracting 10 from each side, and I'll get negative 3/4 x. Negative 10 and negative 4 give me negative 14. And then I'll get rid of my fraction here by multiplying by negative 4/3, and I'll do that on each side. This all cancels, and I'm left with nothing cancels here, but a negative times a negative is a positive. 14 times 4 is 56. 1 times 3 is 3. 5 times a number is decreased by 7. The result is negative 6. So now I'll bring the 7 over by adding 7 to each side. And we'll get 5x is equal to negative 6 plus 7 is 1. And we'll divide by 5. So we'll get x is equal to 1/5. We're not asked to solve. We just say whether it's an equation or an expression. There's no equal sign here, so this is an expression. There is an equal sign here, so this is an equation. Here we have a double sign, so that's going to turn into a positive. And when the signs match, you add, but when they don't match, you subtract, and you always keep the sign of the bigger number. Here we're multiplying, we get 12. There's one negative in that multiplication, so we have a negative 12. Here we have negative 2/3, and we have times 9/8. And I'm going to cancel. 3 goes into 3 once, into 9 3 times. 2 goes into 2 once, into 8 4 times. And we multiply it. A negative times a positive is a negative. 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, be careful. Multiplication and division have the same level of priority, so you have to do whatever comes first, left to right. Since the division comes first, we got to do that first. 50 divided by 5 is 10, and we get 100. The most common mistake here would be to multiply first to get 50, and then say 50 divided by 50 is 1. Here we have a double sign, so we're going to have 13 minus 15. The signs don't match, so we subtract and get 2, and you keep the sign of the bigger number, so it's a negative 2. Be careful here. This negative is not in the base. Only the 5 is. So when this gets expanded, it looks like this, which is a negative 25. A common mistake would be to say positive 25. In a division, when 0's on the bottom, you get an undefined. 17 minus 20 is negative 3, but the absolute value of that is 3. That's it.